Watch this.
Another organization is taking aim at Idaho's abortion laws. The crux of this new lawsuit claims that Idaho laws are violating religion rights under the Idaho and United States Constitutions. Hear why the Satanic Temple is now taking this to court. Election day is not far away, and many candidates are beginning to take to the airways. Have you seen the commercials? But some major politicians are not participating in some televised debates. Ahead, we're going to hear what candidates for Idaho's Attorney General had to say in their only televised debate. And speaking of spooky season, the candy-centric holiday is just a couple of weeks away. Do you know what your costume will be for Halloween? If not, we have some ideas for you. The battle over Idaho's abortion laws are working through the federal and state Supreme Court system. You may remember the United States Department of Justice filing a lawsuit against Idaho back in August. The DOJ says that Idaho's laws violate the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. You might have heard this referred to as EMTALA. But now another organization is filing a lawsuit of their own, and for very different reasons. It's the Satanic Temple, and they say that Idaho's abortion laws violate their religion and other rights protected under the Constitution. Here's our Andrew Bartline.
A church of nearly 1.5 million worldwide, represented through 3,500 in the Gem State. Rowan Astra.
Absolutely. Intrinsic.
Is a devout follower, but her church likely runs contrary to the one in your neighborhood.
I consider myself deeply religious in this matter. I'm just a Satanist.
You understand calling yourself a Satanist probably isn't winning a lot of people over.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a popular label, but it's the one that resonates.
Not as a literal character or higher power from the Bible, Rowan says the Satanic Temple looks to Satan as a symbol.
He's a figure of justice against, again, tyrannical authority that is God.
Tyrannical authority, what do you mean by that?
So for me, in my personal context, that would mean Christian theocracy. Not Christianity, but people who want to assert their Christianity on others via legislation.
So a lot of these laws in Idaho, would you say those align with that people are legislating their religion?
Unfortunately, yes.
Idaho's abortion laws restrict most abortion except for the case of rape or incest. The Satanic Temple filed a federal lawsuit against the state of Idaho in response. The lawsuit claims Idaho's laws violate the 5th, 13th, and 14th Amendments, along with Idaho's Exercise of Religious Freedom Act.
Religious freedom in America protects all sorts of religions.
Eugene Volokh is a law professor at UCLA. He says the Satanic Temple's arguments are valid like any other religion, but the temple has to prove their motivation is strictly religious.
Religious claims don't have to make sense in any logical sense, nor do they have to be easily linked to Holy Scripture. It doesn't have to be reasonable, so long as it's sincerely believed.
The lawsuit focuses on the satanic abortion ritual. The ritual claims a person's body is their body alone. No one else can make a decision for another person's body.
The 13th Amendment does not ban all required work. It doesn't ban the draft. It doesn't ban jury duty, where you're also required to labor, albeit for shorter times. It doesn't ban requiring people to show up in court as witnesses, for example. It bans those things that have historically been understood as slavery or something like that.
So you're not buying that 13th Amendment one you don't think is too strong of an argument?
Well, I'm not buying it, but more importantly, I don't think courts will buy it.
But Rowan is hopeful.
Hopeful that the lawsuit will be successful, of course, and I'm hoping that Idahoans will regain their rights to bodily autonomy in regards to reproductive health care.
Two other claims in the lawsuit focus on the 5th and 14th Amendments, and these arguments are similar to that 13th Amendment, where it's kind of a secular argument. They say restricting abortion or forcing a woman to go through an unwanted pregnancy violates property rights. Further, the lawsuit alleges allowing a woman who is raped to have an abortion and not a woman who got pregnant by accident. They say that's discriminatory. So, Joe, they're saying that violates the Equal Protections Clause of the 14th Amendment. So there are secular arguments in this on what would otherwise be classified as a religious organization.
Now, I'm curious, you mentioned that they filed a lawsuit here in Idaho. This is a nationwide and really a worldwide religion. Is this being just filed in Idaho, or has this been filed in other places where abortion laws have recently changed?
I don't know what the list is to its entirety. I believe Indiana has a lawsuit there as well on behalf of the Satanic Temple against the state. So Idaho's not the only place. As terms of a complete list, we're not positive right now, but Idaho's not the only one.
It'll be interesting because I know that online, when Roe v. Wade was effectively reversed with the Dobbs-Jackson decision, there was a lot of comments online, well, we can't wait to hear if a different religion will file some type of a violation of their First Amendment rights in a court. So I guess this is what some were waiting for, but it'll be interesting, as you highlight in your story, how this plays out.
Yeah, and the Satanic Temple is not the only religion as well in different states and different places. So they're not alone in this, and of course we know the Department of Justice has that lawsuit in Idaho as well.
Okay, well, we got a whole collection of lawsuits at the federal and Supreme Court level here in Idaho. The Supreme Court actually on Thursday, they'll start looking at the Idaho abortion laws again, so we'll keep everybody updated. But for now, Andrew Bartline reporting. Thank you, Andrew. Well, 5 weeks from today is Election Day, and we are in the statewide races portion of the election calendar, meaning that the big races, like for Idaho governor, they'll be on your ballot coming up in about 5 weeks. And traditionally, we would host debates for major races like governor, lieutenant governor, superintendent of public instruction ahead of Election Day here on 7. This cycle, though, there is a collection of Idaho politicians who are refusing to debate. Each politician could hem and haw for you as to why they don't want to debate, but the bottom line is they don't think it's worth it for their individual priorities. It's their decision. Now, the race for Idaho Attorney General is an example of the debate dilemma. Democrat candidate Tom Arkoosh told us that he would participate in a KTVB debate. Republican counterpart, though, Raul Labrador, he told our staff that he would not be doing a debate for our audience, and Labrador's team wouldn't really elaborate as to why. But Labrador and Arkoosh, they did face off in a debate last night on statewide TV. The one time they'll basically do so was on Idaho Public Television. And here on the 208, we see your comments and your questions about the race for Attorney General, specifically on major topics like how the candidates view the AG position and how they would handle the very hot topic of the abortion conversation in our state. So here's a look at the debate for Attorney General between former Idaho Congressman Raul Labrador and political newcomer and legal veteran Tom Arkoosh. It's possibly the most heated race in the November 2022 Idaho election cycle, the battle to be Idaho's next Attorney General. Former Idaho Congressman, Republican candidate Raul Labrador debated with political newcomer, veteran attorney Tom Arkoosh, who recently affiliated with the Idaho Democrats to run against Labrador. A major topic in debate, Idaho's recently enacted abortion laws that are being studied by the Idaho Supreme Court. For starters, Labrador argues that yes, he believes the laws are clear on when an abortion can be performed in Idaho.
Our law says that if a woman's life is in jeopardy, that the abortion can be provided. And in the cases, case after case after case that doctors keep bringing forward, in those cases, the woman's life would be in jeopardy. So our law would allow the abortion. In fact, in the case of an ectopic pregnancy, it's not even an abortion, because an ectopic pregnancy, you actually have an unviable or non-viable fetus. So an abortion doesn't even come into place when there's an ectopic pregnancy.
Council should know that pregnancy is defined in our law as a fertilized egg. So an ectopic pregnancy is a problem. That was the argument made in court, and Judge Windmill just rejected it entirely. He should also know that in the Texas law that it provided for an abortion if the woman's health was in jeopardy. Ours does not read that. Theirs read very close to the federal law.
Early in the debate, Arkoosh brought up what he believes would be different approaches to the office, saying he wants to run a law office while his opponent, Mr. Labrador, wants to run a, quote, cultural war room. Labrador pushed back on the claim and questioned Arkoosh's qualifications.
When you're working within the political process, you're working with elected officials. We're working with people who have been appointed to positions by elected officials. And you need to understand how that works. You can't just get on-the-job training and decide that because you have been a lawyer for a long time and you've never really worked with these agencies in the way that you need to do, that you're now going to be able to work with them in a way that you can provide good legal advice to them.
This state has too quickly gone to litigation, and it's cost us a lot of money. I hope to see that end in the future. However, if you're an aggressive attorney general and you want to get to the courts and you want to have a fight with everybody you can find, you might vote for the other fella. But if you want to work out your problems in the middle and come together as a state and focus on potholes, perhaps I'm your man.
In recent years, the Idaho legislature has found themselves being sued in court over laws they passed on a collection of issues. Labrador says he thinks he can fix that by working with lawmakers, and he adds that Arkoosh might have already burned that relationship with the legislature based on critical comments that Arkoosh has made about decisions the legislature has made.
He's already lost the trust of the legislature because he's already indicated to the legislature that he's going to put his political positions ahead of the positions of the people of Idaho. All the laws in the state of Idaho, it's the duly elected representatives that decide what those laws are. I don't get to decide what those laws are. In fact, I may even disagree with the legislature in some cases. But my job is to give them the best legal advice possible and to help them draft the legislation in a way that I can defend in the courts.
I've not lost the trust of the legislature. I might have lost the trust of some conservative legislatures that he's promised to partner with and exclude everybody else. But I think moderate legislators will come with me to the middle and talk. How's that worked out so far? When the legislature decides to pass a blatantly unconstitutional amendment and then spend the Constitutional Defense Fund to defend it, it just costs us money.
Labrador and Arkoosh also touched on Idaho water laws, more on their personal backgrounds, as well as the results of the 2020 presidential election. And you can watch the full debate on the Idaho Public Television YouTube page. We will link to that in this story at KTVB.com. Viewers like you have been asking us, where's the money? Well, we have an answer and a way for you to check on where your Idaho tax rebate money is and how long it might take for it to land in your bank account. Now's the time to chime in and tell us what you want to see more of here on the 208. Don't be shy, step right up. You can send us a text message anytime. Here's our number, 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208 so we know who it's going to. And if we don't share your message at the end of today's show, stick around. We could share it later this week. All right, we appreciate when you, our viewers at home, hello, we appreciate when you reach out to us about story ideas and questions, and we've got several questions about when those rebate checks will be making it to Idahoans. And we've reported that the rebate checks, again, they are the result of the special session of the Idaho legislature that gathered about a month ago to decide what to do with a $2 billion surplus. And one part of that surplus, $500,000 was allocated back to Idahoans in the form of rebate checks. $500 million, I should say. So Ben, in a text, said to us about the tax rebate, we all should call Governor Little and ask him, where is my rebate? And Ben, you're not the only one that's texted in. A lot of people want to know, when are we going to get that money? The legislature talked about getting it to Idahoans who need it now. So when is now? Well, there's no need to call the governor. The Idaho Tax Commission released updated information just today about how you can track your special session tax rebate. And they are handling the rebate process, and they posted a timeline on social media. So let's walk through it together. It shows that they started the process of sending rebates in late September, so just a matter of weeks ago. Now the online status tool is ready for taxpayers. So there's a tracking website, and it'll ask you for your social security number and your driver's license or your ID number for your 2021 tax return. That's how they can verify it's you requesting your information. And that will give you an approximate date for your check to arrive. The Tax Commission is processing rebates based on when you filed your 2021 income taxes. So kind of a first come, first served. So if you filed early, you're likely to get your rebate early. If you filed later, well, you get the idea. And the amount you receive will either be $300 per individual, $600 for married couples filing jointly, or 10% of what you paid in 2020. So it depends on which one is more. You're going to get the higher amount. And we will have a link to the Idaho Tax Commission's rebate tracker on KTVB.com. And for the record, if you were wondering, okay, so how long could this take? We took a little bit of a survey around the newsroom. We found just here at work, based on the online tracker, just online what we were talking about here, so no special info that we have access to, based on the online tracker, some people have the alert that they're going to get their return in about 2 weeks. I can tell you, some people wearing glasses here today, they have to wait 14 weeks. So I will see you in January if you're my tax rebate check. All right, switching gears now. All Hallows Eve, spooky season, a reason to eat more than your fair share of candy, whatever you want to call it. Halloween, it's about 4 weeks away as we're here in the first week of October, and it may seem a little early, but now is the time for many to start setting out the skeletons, the cauldrons, the witches' brooms as welcoming signals for trick-or-treaters. And when it comes to costumes, there is some thought needed, or relevance, or maybe just some randomly looking through some drawers, see what you could throw together there. Well, back in 1998, Idaho Life reporter John Miller showcased some of the best and quirkiest outfits that were popular prior to the turn of the century. So here's some inspiration. We'll circle back to this conversation in just a minute.
Here's a bit of advice concerning Halloween costume shopping.
Before you come in, kind of decide what you like.
Or else you might wind up like this.
I feel like Elton John in a fedora. What do most people want to be?
Something other than what they are.
Like a dolphin.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or a gorilla.
Something's not right.
That's why Donna Selly's there to help.
The Titanic is really big this year.
Okay.
Very popular.
But if your bank account isn't,
This is like the cheaper, wittier Titanic thing here.
Zorro costumes are very popular.
Why do guys like this so much?
It's a machismo thing. I don't know for sure.
A machismo thing?
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm supposed to be all studly and stuff?
I think
I
so.
don't feel studly.
No? How do you feel?
Kind of like a dork.
a lot dorkier than Popeye, a little dorkier than Elvis,
The king.
and way dorkier than you-know-who.
Oh, Mr. President! Last year I had 4 friends in town and we wanted to be Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, yeah.
You see, Donna can bring out the Laura Ingalls in anyone.
Hey, Paul!
Whatever you do, don't get caught wondering.
Why don't you have anything left?
Right.
Well, it's October 29th.
You gotta get on it now if you want a costume that's out of this world.
We'll see you next Halloween.
John Miller, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Okay, so the year was 1998 when they ran that story, and the costume shop that John was in there has since closed. But there are several other options to get your spooky out there, and we know that you have a great imagination and some homemade costumes. Well, we were talking about the 90s, and our producer Tyson and I were talking. Here's some ideas from my personal collection. Thank you, Mom, for sending these in. Here's an idea. You could be Brian Greasy from the Denver Broncos. That's post Elway, of course. Bottom right there, Batman, always a good decision. Railroad Conductor Joe, top right of your screen there, big Thomas the Tank Engine fan. And of course, where the wild things are, Max, right there in the center of your screen. So send us your all-time greatest Halloween costumes. Maybe we'll get to those in a minute. We'll step aside. 208 returns after this.
you have to go to New England to leaf peep.
I don't think you do.
No, you don't.
Just go right here.
You just stay right here in the city
right.
of trees. That's pretty pictures there.
The first fall foliage.
Yeah.
Little alliteration. But
Perfect.
What's on deck? What's the freshest forecast?
Well, it's warm. It's
Yeah.
warm for fall. It was a hot start to September, but we're already at 81 for a high so far today. That's probably going to go down in the books as our high today, but that's almost 10 degrees above seasonal averages. So I put together something just to remind us that it is fall. So follow along with me,
Okay.
Joe. 7 stages of fall in Idaho. We have passed this, but despite no thought of it at all year long, you suddenly crave pumpkin spice everything. That includes, you know, candles and
Everything.
coffee. Yeah. And then number 2, stage 2, the grocery store suddenly smells like mums and cinnamon pine cones, but it's still 90 degrees outside.
So what was that, like 2 weeks ago?
Yep,
Okay.
we passed that.
Passed that.
The BSU home opener, you get a surprise sunburn. And then after that, after weeks of declaring it's just too early, you load up your porch with pumpkins. That's happening in your neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Big
think
time.
that's about where we're at right now. And you're starting to think about the final garden harvest, you know, because there might be a frost coming, but you're in the valley, so you're still eating fresh tomatoes.
So that seems like that's coming up.
Far too many of those fresh tomatoes.
Wow.
And stage 6 is when yet another windstorm sweeps all of your neighbors' leaves into your yard and you leaf them there.
Seems like November vibes.
Yes, definitely. And number 7, this is my favorite time of year, but can we just get up to bogus already?
It's right around Christmas week.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
so where
I
we're
would
at?
say we're probably somewhere around stage 4 here.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily 90 degrees outside. You're not getting a sunburn at a football game because the sun's going down too early, but it is still pretty warm outside.
Yeah.
And so it's just a reminder that the clock is ticking and we are getting closer and closer to more fall-like feeling forecast, which I think is on the way for us by the
Right.
middle of next week.
Are you able to go back to that previous, the list?
I believe so.
Okay, I just want folks at home to.
Oh, it'll
okay,
only
all the
go
way
one at a
through.
time.
All
I
right.
will post it for you,
Please
Joe.
post it,
I will
yeah.
make sure it ends up on my Facebook page.
Go to Bree's Facebook page. I want to know what you think is the best part of fall. But we're at a DEF-CON 4. We'll hold it there. All right, let's put this show to sleep here on your Tuesday. I got some comments coming in from Andrew's story, hashtag the 208. I'm a Christian, but good on the Church of Satan for heading the hypocrisy in the U.S. head on. That's Karen in Garden City. It's interesting, we've seen a lot of messages about Roe v. Wade and abortion and stuff in the recent weeks. A lot of people saying, you know, I appreciate them doing this. This aligns with my religion. So a different take here from Karen in Garden City. This person says, the 208, given the history of fraud and crime on the internet, who in their right mind would post their social security number or taxpayer's ID on any Idaho state website to have it stolen while trying to figure out when you might get $300? It's your choice. If for some reason you don't feel safe doing it, you can just wait to see when you get that money. But yeah, I know there are people that are not going to want to put that info in, but it is an official website. We asked for some of your costumes. We love this one, Breaking Bad. That's perfect. And then finally here, what do we got? Final comment here. David says, I'm picking out the wildest, most outrageous technical or sport coat I can find so he can go trick-or-treating as Brian Holmes. Watch out for those Brian Holmes out there.